Maya lived in a small coastal town surrounded by lush green hills and crystal-clear waters. The town wasn't famous, but it had its own charm, a quiet beauty that made people feel at peace when they visited. Maya loved her hometown deeply. She knew every nook and cranny of the place. The narrow alleys lined with colorful houses, the hidden beaches where turtles nested during certain seasons, and the tiny family-run shops that sold delicious local snacks. For years she worked as a teacher at the local school, but on weekends she often helped out friends who ran tours for visitors. One sunny morning, Maya received a call from her best friend, Priya. Priya was one of the most popular tour guides in the area, known for her bubbly personality and knack for making tourists feel welcome. But this time her voice sounded weak and tired over the phone. "Maya," she said faintly, "I'm so sorry to bother you, but I've come down with something really bad. Fever, body aches. I can barely get out of bed." Maya immediately grew concerned. "Oh no, do you need me to bring you some medicine? Or maybe soup?" Priya sighed. "Actually, there's something else. Remember that American tourist I told you about? He's arriving tomorrow, and I promised to show him around for 2 weeks. If I don't find someone to take my place, he'll be stranded here without proper guidance. Can you please step in for me? Just until I recover?" For a moment, Maya hesitated. 2 weeks was a long commitment, especially since she already had responsibilities at the school. But then she thought about how hard Priya worked to build her reputation as a reliable guide. Turning down the request would mean letting her friend and the tourist down. Besides, helping others came naturally to Maya. It was part of who she was. "Okay," Maya finally said with a smile in her voice. "I'll do it. Don't worry about a thing, just focus on getting better." The next day, Maya prepared herself for the task ahead. She packed a bag with essentials, water bottles, sunscreen, extra scarves in case the weather turned chilly, and a notebook filled with handwritten notes about interesting spots to visit. Her plan was simple: to give the American tourist an unforgettable experience while staying true to what made her town special. When she arrived at the hotel where the tourist was staying, nerves fluttered in her stomach. She didn't know much about Americans except what she'd seen in movies or read in books. Would he expect fancy restaurants and luxury accommodations? Would he complain about the lack of Wi-Fi in remote areas? Or worse, would he dismiss her suggestions because she wasn't a professional guide? Her worries vanished the moment she met him. Standing in the lobby was a tall man wearing casual clothes, jeans, a plain t-shirt, and sneakers. His dark sunglasses rested on top of his head, revealing warm brown eyes that sparkled with curiosity. He introduced himself as Ethan Carter and extended his hand with a friendly smile. "You must be Maya," he said. "Priya told me you'd be stepping in. Thank you so much for doing this." His voice was calm and reassuring, putting Maya at ease instantly. "It's my pleasure," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. "I hope you're ready for an adventure." Ethan chuckled. "That's exactly why I'm here. I wanted to see places beyond the usual tourist traps. From what Priya described, your town sounds amazing." With that, they set off on their first day together. Maya started with the basics, an overview of the town's history, its landmarks, and its culture. They walked through bustling markets where vendors shouted greetings and displayed fresh produce, handmade crafts, and fragrant spices. Ethan listened intently, asking questions whenever something caught his attention. At one point, he stopped to buy a brightly colored scarf from an elderly woman, insisting on paying more than the asking price despite Maya's protests. "You don't have to do that," she said, laughing softly. "She'll think you're crazy." "I just want to support her," Ethan replied with a shrug. "Besides, it's beautiful. Maybe I'll send it back home as a gift." Later, they visited a secluded beach tucked away behind towering cliffs. The waves crashed against the rocks, creating a soothing melody that echoed around them. Maya pointed out a group of fishermen repairing their nets nearby. "They've been coming here for generations," she explained. "This beach is sacred to them. It's where they connect with nature and honor their ancestors." Ethan nodded, clearly moved by her words. "It's incredible how connected everyone seems to be here. Back home, life feels so Disconnected sometimes. Maya tilted her head curiously. Where exactly is home for you? Oh, I live in San Francisco, he answered casually. But I travel a lot for work. San Francisco. The name sounded glamorous, almost surreal. Maya imagined skyscrapers, busy streets, and tech companies buzzing with activity. Yet Ethan didn't seem like someone who belonged in such a fast-paced world. There was a gentleness about him, a quietness that made her wonder if there was more to his story than he let on. As the afternoon wore on, they stopped at a small seafood shack perched on stilts above the water. The owner greeted Maya like an old friend and served them plates of steaming fish curry accompanied by fluffy rice. Ethan took a bite and closed his eyes, savoring the flavors. This might be the best meal I've ever had, he declared, earning a grin from Maya. By the end of the day, Maya realized she had misjudged Ethan entirely. Far from being demanding or difficult, he was kind, humble, and genuinely interested in everything she showed him. As they strolled back to the hotel under the golden glow of the setting sun, Maya felt a sense of satisfaction she hadn't expected. Helping Ethan explore her beloved town wasn't just a favor to Priya, it was turning into something far more rewarding. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey. The next morning, Maya woke up with a mix of excitement and curiosity. She had enjoyed the previous day more than she expected, and Ethan's genuine interest in her town made her want to show him even more. But there was also a lingering question, in her mind. Who exactly was this man? He seemed so different from the typical tourists she had encountered. No flashy clothes, no constant phone checking, no complaints about the lack of luxury amenities. There was something understated yet intriguing about him, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. After grabbing a quick breakfast, Maya headed to the hotel to meet Ethan. He was already waiting for her in the lobby, dressed in the same casual style as the day before. This time, however, he carried a leather-bound journal and a camera slung around his neck. "Good morning," he greeted her with a warm smile. "I hope you don't mind, but I thought I'd take some notes and pictures along the way. Your town is too beautiful not to document." Maya laughed softly. "Of course I don't mind. In fact, I think it's wonderful that you're so interested. Most people just snap a few selfies and move on." "Well, I'm not most people," Ethan said with a playful wink. "Lead the way. I'm ready for whatever adventure you have planned today." Their first stop was a secluded waterfall nestled deep within the hills. The path to reach it wasn't easy. It involved climbing over rocks, crossing shallow streams, and navigating narrow trails shaded by towering trees. Maya walked ahead, occasionally turning back to make sure Ethan was keeping up. To her surprise, he didn't seem fazed by the challenging terrain. Instead, he moved with a steady pace, pausing now and then to admire the scenery or jot something down in his journal. When they finally arrived at the waterfall, Ethan let out a low whistle of admiration. The cascading water sparkled in the sunlight, creating rainbows that danced across the misty air. Birds chirped overhead, and the sound of rushing water filled the silence. "This is breathtaking," Ethan said, his voice tinged with awe. "How did you find this place?" "It's a local secret," Maya replied, smiling proudly. "Not many outsiders know about it. People come here to meditate or just sit quietly and reflect. It's one of my favorite spots." Ethan nodded, pulling out his camera to capture the view. As he snapped photos, Maya noticed how carefully he framed each shot, adjusting angles and lighting until everything looked perfect. "You're really good at this," she remarked. "Do you do photography often?" "Not professionally," Ethan admitted. "But I've always loved capturing moments. It helps me remember things better, like little pieces of time frozen forever." They sat by the waterfall for a while, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. Maya told Ethan about the legends surrounding the area, how locals believed the waterfall was enchanted, granting wishes to those who whispered them into the spray. Ethan listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "That's fascinating," he said. "It makes me wonder what other stories your town holds." After leaving the waterfall, they headed to the bustling night market, which came alive as the sun began to set. Stalls overflowed with vibrant fruits, handmade crafts, and steaming bowls of street food. The air buzzed with energy, filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of coins changing hands. Maya led Ethan through the crowd, introducing him to vendors and encouraging him to try new foods. He sampled everything from spicy grilled skewers to sweet sticky rice wrapped in banana leaves, and marveled at the explosion of flavors. "This is incredible," Ethan said, wiping his mouth after biting into a crispy spring roll. "I've never tasted anything like this before. You guys really know how to cook." Maya grinned. "Food is a big part of our culture. Every dish tells a story." As they wandered further into the market, Maya noticed Ethan stopping frequently to chat with the vendors. He asked about their lives, their families, and how long they'd been selling their wares. His questions weren't intrusive, they were sincere, showing a genuine desire to understand the people behind the stalls. One elderly woman, touched by his kindness, gifted him a small wooden carving of an elephant. "For good luck," she said with a toothless smile. Later that evening, Maya invited Ethan to her grandmother's house for dinner. Her grandmother, affectionately called Nani, was known throughout the neighborhood for her cooking skills. When they arrived, Nani welcomed them with open arms, ushering them inside and insisting they sit down immediately. The table was laden with dishes, fragrant curries, freshly baked rotis, tangy pickles, and creamy yogurt. "This is amazing," Ethan said, looking overwhelmed by the spread. "I feel like I've stepped into a feast fit for royalty." Nani chuckled, patting his shoulder. "Eat, eat. Food tastes best when shared with others." Throughout the meal, Ethan listened as Maya and Nani shared stories about their family, their traditions, and the history of their town. He asked thoughtful questions, clearly fascinated by their way of life. At one point, he turned to Maya and said, "You're so lucky to have all this, to be surrounded by such rich culture and love. I can tell how much this place means to you." Maya felt a lump rise in her throat. No one had ever spoken to her like that before, with such sincerity and understanding. For the first time, she realized how special her world truly was, even if it seemed ordinary to her. As the night drew to a close, Ethan thanked Nani profusely for the hospitality. On their way back to the hotel, he remained quiet, lost in thought. Finally, he broke the silence. "You know, Maya, I've traveled to a lot of places, but none of them have felt quite like this. Your town, it's magical. And you make it even more special." Maya blushed, unsure how to respond. "I'm just doing my job," she said modestly. "I'm glad you're enjoying yourself." But deep down, she knew this wasn't just about doing a favor for Priya anymore. Spending time with Ethan was becoming something far more meaningful. Little did she know, their connection would soon take an unexpected turn, one that would change both their lives forever. By the third day, Maya and Ethan had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Each morning began with a new adventure, and each evening ended with laughter, stories, and a growing sense of camaraderie between them. Maya found herself looking forward to their time together more than she cared to admit. There was something about Ethan's quiet curiosity and genuine appreciation for her town that made her feel seen in ways she hadn't before. She realized how rarely people took the time to truly understand her world, and here was this stranger, soaking it all in like a sponge. On this particular day, Maya decided to take Ethan to one of the most remote spots in the area, a hidden trail that led to a panoramic view of the coastline. The path was steep and rocky, winding through dense forests where sunlight filtered through the leaves in golden beams. Maya walked ahead, occasionally glancing back to check on Ethan. He followed steadily, his camera slung around his neck and his journal tucked under his arm. Despite the challenging terrain, he didn't complain once. Instead, he seemed invigorated by the climb, stopping now and then to capture photos or jot down notes. When they finally reached the summit, Ethan let out a soft gasp. Below them stretched an endless expanse of turquoise water, dotted with tiny fishing boats and framed by jagged cliffs. The horizon blended seamlessly into the sky, creating a breathtaking canvas of blues and greens. "This is indescribable," Ethan said, his voice tinged with awe. I've never seen anything like it. Maya smiled, feeling a swell of pride. It's my favorite place to come when I need to clear my head. The view always reminds me how small we are compared to the world. Ethan nodded thoughtfully. It's humbling, isn't it? Makes you realize what really matters. They sat there for a while, enjoying the silence and the cool breeze brushing against their faces. Maya pointed out landmarks in the distance. The lighthouse perched on a cliff, the mangroves where migratory birds nested, and the distant outline of a neighboring island. As she spoke, Ethan listened intently, his pen moving quickly across the pages of his journal. Every so often he'd glance up at her, his eyes reflecting admiration and gratitude. After spending some time at the summit, they began their descent. On the way back, Maya noticed Ethan slowing down slightly, his focus shifting from the scenery to his thoughts. She wondered if something was bothering him but decided not to pry. They eventually returned to the main road, where Maya suggested stopping by a roadside cafe for refreshments. It was a quaint little spot run by a cheerful elderly couple who served strong coffee and freshly baked pastries. As they sipped their drinks, Ethan leaned back in his chair, his expression contemplative. "You know," he began, breaking the comfortable silence. "I came here hoping to escape the chaos of my life for a while, but being here with you, it's making me see things differently." Maya raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "How so?" "Well," Ethan continued, choosing his words carefully. "Back home, everything moves so fast. People are always chasing the next big thing, more money, more success, more recognition. Here, though, life feels simpler, more meaningful. You've shown me that happiness doesn't have to be complicated." Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. His words resonated deeply with her own beliefs, even if she had never articulated them quite like that. "That's just how we live here," she replied softly. "We value relationships, traditions, and nature. Maybe that's why outsiders find it so refreshing." Ethan smiled, but there was a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "Sometimes I wish I could stay longer, just immerse myself completely in this lifestyle, but responsibilities pull me back." Before Maya could respond, Ethan excused himself to use the restroom. Left alone at the table, she glanced around the cozy cafe, her gaze drifting toward Ethan's belongings. His leather-bound journal lay, open on the table, its pages filled with neat handwriting and sketches. Curiosity got the better of her, and she leaned closer to get a glimpse of what he had been writing. That's when she saw it, a name mentioned in passing: Ethan Carter, founder and CEO of Nexora Technologies. Her heart skipped a beat. Nexora Technologies? She had heard of them before. They were a global tech giant known for revolutionizing artificial intelligence and cloud computing. Their products were used worldwide, and their founder was often featured in magazines and news articles as one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs of his generation. And yet here he was, sitting across from her, sipping coffee like any ordinary person. For a moment, Maya felt dizzy. How had she not realized who he was? Sure, he had mentioned living in San Francisco and traveling for work, but nothing about. His demeanor hinted at such immense wealth and influence. No private jets, no entourage, no flashy accessories, just a humble man eager to learn and connect with others. When Ethan returned, Maya quickly closed the journal and slid it back to its original position. She forced a smile, trying to act normal, but her mind raced with questions. Should she say something? Pretend she hadn't seen anything? Or confront him directly? Ethan must have noticed her unease because he tilted his head slightly, studying her face. "Is everything okay?" he asked gently. Maya hesitated, then shook her head. "No, I'm fine, just thinking." He didn't press further, and they finished their drinks in relative silence. As they left the cafe, Maya wrestled with conflicting emotions. Part of her felt betrayed, not because Ethan had lied, but because he hadn't shared something so significant about himself. Yet another part of her understood why he might want to keep it hidden. After all, wouldn't most people treat him differently if they knew the truth? The rest of the day passed in a blur. They visited a historic temple tucked away in the hills, where monks chanted prayers and incense wafted through the air. Maya explained the significance of the carvings on the walls and the rituals performed daily. Ethan listened attentively, snapping photos and asking insightful questions. But despite his outward engagement, Maya couldn't shake off the nagging feeling in the back of her mind. That evening, as they strolled along the beach watching the sun dip below the horizon, Maya finally gathered the courage to speak. "Ethan," she began hesitantly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course," he replied, turning to face her. She took a deep breath. "Why didn't you tell me who you are? I mean, who you really are?" Ethan froze for a split second, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out," he admitted. "To be honest, I didn't think it mattered. I came here to disconnect, to experience life without the weight of my title or my company following me everywhere. I wanted to meet people as just Ethan, not as the CEO of Nexora." Maya nodded, processing his words. "I get that, but still, it's kind of a big deal." "I know," Ethan said quietly, "and I'm sorry if finding out like this made things awkward. I guess I underestimated how much I trust you, and how much I didn't want that to change." His honesty caught her off guard. For all his wealth and fame, Ethan seemed remarkably human, vulnerable even. In that moment, Maya realized that his decision to keep his identity hidden wasn't about deception. It was about preserving authenticity. And maybe, just maybe, she could respect that. As the waves lapped at their feet and the stars began to twinkle above, Maya felt a strange mix of relief and wonder. This journey with Ethan was turning out to be far more complex and far more beautiful than she had ever imagined. The revelation about Ethan's true identity lingered in the air between them, but instead of creating distance, it seemed to deepen their connection. Over the next few days, Maya and Ethan continued exploring the town together, but there was a new layer to their interactions, a quiet understanding that they were both seeing each other more clearly now. Ethan opened up more about his life, sharing stories about the challenges of building a company from scratch and the sacrifices it demanded. Maya listened intently, her initial shock giving way to empathy as she realized how lonely such success could be. One afternoon, they visited a tiny village nestled in the hills, far from the tourist-heavy areas. The villagers greeted Maya warmly, treating her like family. To Ethan, it was clear that she wasn't just a guide. She was a bridge between her community and the outside world. As they walked through narrow streets lined with modest homes, Maya introduced him to artisans who crafted intricate pottery and weavers who created vibrant fabrics using age-old techniques. Ethan marveled at their skill, buying several pieces as gifts for friends back home. But what struck him most was the pride in the villagers' eyes when they spoke about their work, the same pride he saw in Maya whenever she talked about her town. Later that day, they stopped at a small tea shop run by an elderly couple. The owner served them steaming cups of masala chai, fragrant with spices and warmth. Sitting cross-legged on cushions, Ethan leaned forward and asked, "Maya, have you ever thought about leaving this place? Exploring the world beyond?" Maya paused, sipping her tea before answering. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I think about all the things I'd miss. My students, my grandmother, the festivals, the ocean. This town is part of me. Leaving would feel like losing a piece of myself." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. In a way, I envy you. You're so connected to your roots. For me, everything's been about moving forward, building, growing, achieving. But sometimes I wonder if I've lost sight of where I came from." His words hung in the air, raw and honest. Maya studied his face, noticing the faint lines of exhaustion around his eyes. She wondered how much pressure he carried daily, how many decisions rested on his shoulders. Despite his wealth and accomplishments, he seemed weighed down by something invisible yet heavy. Their conversation shifted to lighter topics as the sun dipped lower in the sky. They laughed over silly jokes, shared childhood memories, and debated which local dish was the best. By the time they left the tea shop, the tension from earlier had melted away, replaced by a sense of ease neither of them had expected. The following morning, Maya took Ethan to her favorite spot, a secluded cove accessible only by boat. The journey itself was an adventure, with choppy waves and salty sea spray soaking their clothes. When they arrived, the cove revealed itself in all its glory. Smooth white sand surrounded by towering cliffs, and crystal clear water reflecting the bright blue sky. It was a paradise untouched by crowds or development. "This is incredible," Ethan said, his voice filled with awe. He pulled out his camera, capturing every angle of the breathtaking view. Then, turning to Maya, he added, "Thank you for bringing me here. I don't think I'll ever forget this place or the person who showed it to me." Maya blushed, brushing off the compliment with a smile. "It's nothing special, just another corner of my hometown." "But it is special," Ethan insisted, "because of how you see it, and because of how you make others see it too." They spent hours at the cove, swimming in the cool water, collecting seashells and talking about everything and nothing. For the first time in years, Ethan felt truly present, unburdened by emails, meetings, or deadlines. Being with Maya made him realize how much beauty he had overlooked in his pursuit of success. Her simplicity, kindness, and deep love for her culture reminded him of what truly mattered. As the week drew to a close, Maya began thinking about their remaining time together. Though she tried not to dwell on it, the thought of saying goodbye weighed heavily on her heart. Ethan, too, seemed reluctant to let go of their daily adventures. One evening, as they sat on a hilltop watching the sunset, Ethan turned to her and said, "I wish I could stay longer. There's still so much I want to learn, from you, from this place." Maya smiled wistfully. "Maybe one day you'll come back." "I'd like that," Ethan replied softly. "But even after I leave, I want to do something to thank you for everything you've done for me." Before Maya could respond, Ethan reached into his bag and pulled out his journal. Flipping through the pages, he showed her sketches, notes, and photographs documenting their journey together. "This trip has changed me," he confessed, "and I owe it all to you." Touched by his sincerity, Maya shook her head. "You don't owe me anything. Helping people explore this town, it's what I love doing." Ethan looked at her, his gaze steady and earnest. "Still, I want to give something back. Not just to you, but to this community that's given me so much." Curious, Maya tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Ethan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "During our time together, you mentioned wanting to build a library and cultural center for the kids in town, something that would preserve traditions and provide education. What if I helped make that happen?" Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Ethan said firmly. "It's the least I can do. Think of it as my way of saying thank you, not just to you, but to everyone who's welcomed me here." For a moment, Maya was speechless. The idea of having a proper library and cultural center had been a dream of hers for years, but funding was always a challenge. To hear Ethan offer his support felt surreal, yet despite her excitement, she couldn't help feeling uneasy. "Ethan, that's incredibly generous. But are you sure? I don't want you to feel obligated." "I wouldn't offer if I didn't mean it," Ethan assured her. "Besides, it's not charity, it's an investment in your community, in your vision, and in keeping this town's spirit alive." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Maya finally nodded. "If you're certain, then yes. Let's do it." With that decision, their final days together took on a new purpose. They visited potential sites for the library, met with local leaders to discuss plans, and brainstormed ideas for programs and activities. Ethan threw himself into the project with enthusiasm, asking questions, offering suggestions, and ensuring every detail aligned with Maya's vision. Watching him immerse himself in her world reinforced Maya's belief that beneath his polished exterior lay a man deeply committed to making a difference. On their last evening together, they returned to the beach where they had shared their first meal. The tide was high, the waves crashing rhythmically against the shore. Ethan stood quietly, gazing at the horizon, while Maya wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold on to the moment. "I'm going to miss this," Ethan said softly, breaking the silence. "Miss you?" Maya swallowed hard, her throat tight with emotion. "Me too. But at least we'll always have this memory, and the library to remind us of everything we've built together." Ethan smiled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small wooden elephant, the gift the elderly vendor had given him at the night market. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "A token of gratitude, and maybe a promise to return someday." Tears pricked Maya's eyes as she accepted the carving. "I'll hold you to that," she whispered. As the stars emerged one by one above them, casting a soft glow over the beach, Maya realized that Ethan's visit had changed her life in ways she never anticipated. What started as a simple favor for a friend had blossomed into something extraordinary, a friendship, a partnership, and perhaps the beginning of something even deeper. Little did she know, their story was far from over. The weeks following Ethan's departure felt strange for Maya. The town seemed quieter without his presence, and the absence of their daily adventures left a void she hadn't expected. Yet at the same time, there was an undeniable energy in the air, a sense of anticipation brought on by the plans for the library and cultural center. Ethan had made good on his promise, wiring the funds needed to kickstart the project within days of returning home. His generosity wasn't just financial. He sent detailed emails outlining ideas, connecting Maya with architects and designers, and even arranging for shipments of books and educational materials from abroad. Maya threw herself into the work, finding solace in the flurry of activity. She met with local leaders, teachers, and artisans to discuss how the library could best serve the community. They envisioned it as more than just a place to borrow books. It would be a hub of learning, creativity, and cultural preservation. Workshops on traditional crafts, storytelling sessions for children, and evening classes for adults were all part of the plan. Slowly but surely, the dream began taking shape. Despite her busy schedule, Maya couldn't help thinking about Ethan often. Their nightly video calls became a cherished routine. Sitting cross-legged on her living room floor, she'd update him on the progress while he listened intently, offering suggestions or simply smiling at her enthusiasm. These conversations reminded her of their time together, the laughter, the shared meals, the quiet moments under starlit skies. But they also revealed something new, a deepening bond that transcended friendship. One evening, as they discussed the design of the library's interior, Ethan paused mid-sentence. "Maya," he said softly, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" He hesitated, running a hand through his hair, a nervous habit she had come to recognize. "This project, it's not just about giving back to your town. It's about staying connected. To you, specifically. Being here, meeting you, seeing your passion for this place. It changed me. And I don't want to lose that connection now that I'm gone." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Ethan, let me finish," he interrupted gently. "I know we live worlds apart, literally and figuratively. Your life is here and mine. Well, it's complicated, but I can't stop thinking about you, about us. If there's even a chance that what we have could grow into something more, I want to take it." For a moment, Maya was speechless. She had wondered if Ethan felt the same way, but hearing him say it out loud sent a rush of emotions coursing through her. Joy, fear, hope. They all collided in her chest. "Ethan," she finally said, her voice trembling slightly, "you're amazing. And yes, I feel the same way, but are you sure? Long-distance relationships aren't easy, and our lives are so different." "I'm not saying it'll be easy," Ethan admitted, "but I'm willing to try if you are. We can figure it out. Together, one step at a time." Moved by his sincerity, Maya nodded. "Okay, let's give it a shot." As the months passed, Their relationship evolved into something neither of them had anticipated. Despite the distance, they found ways to stay close. Ethan visited twice during the construction of the library, each trip filled with equal parts, work and romance. He joined Maya in meetings, helped paint walls alongside volunteers, and marveled at how quickly the building was coming to life. In quieter moments, they explored new corners of the town together, creating memories that felt like stolen pieces of paradise. On one such visit, Ethan surprised Maya with tickets to a nearby island, known for its bioluminescent bay. Under the cover of darkness, they paddled a kayak into the glowing waters, surrounded by shimmering blue lights that danced with every movement. It was magical, an experience neither of them would ever forget. As they floated silently, Ethan reached for her hand. "You make everything brighter," he murmured. "Even when I'm miles away, knowing you're out there keeps me grounded." Maya smiled, squeezing his fingers. "And you remind me that dreams really can come true." By the time the library opened its doors 6 months later, it had become a symbol of their partnership, not just between Maya and Ethan, but between two worlds coming together. The grand opening ceremony drew hundreds of locals, dignitaries, and journalists eager to see the transformation. Children ran excitedly through the colorful reading rooms, while elders gathered in the courtyard to share stories and songs. The center of it all stood Maya and Ethan, side by side, cutting the ceremonial ribbon amidst cheers and applause. In his speech, Ethan spoke humbly about the importance of preserving culture and empowering communities. "None of this would have been possible without Maya," he said, turning to her with a proud smile. "She taught me that success isn't measured by wealth or titles. It's measured by the impact you have on others. This library is her vision, her hard work, and her heart. I'm just lucky to have played a small part in bringing it to life." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as the crowd erupted into applause. For the first time, she allowed herself to fully embrace the magnitude of what they had accomplished. Not just the library, but the bridge they had built between their vastly different lives. That night, after the celebrations died down, Maya and Ethan sat on the steps of the library watching the stars twinkle above. "Do you remember the first day we met?" Ethan asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Maya chuckled. "How could I forget? You looked so lost standing in that hotel lobby. And now look at us," Ethan said, gesturing toward the building behind them. "Who would have thought stepping in for Priya would lead to all this?" "It's funny how life works sometimes," Maya mused. A simple favor turned into something extraordinary. Ethan turned to her, his expression serious yet tender. "Maya, I need to ask you something important." Her pulse quickened. "What is it?" Taking a deep breath, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it, he revealed a delicate silver ring adorned with a single sapphire stone. "When I came here, I was looking for an escape. Instead, I found a reason to stay, for good. Will you let me build a life with you here? Not as a tourist, but as someone who belongs." Maya's breath caught in her throat. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, unable to speak. Slipping the ring onto her finger, Ethan pulled her into a tight embrace, his whisper carrying the weight of a promise. "Together," he said, "always." Underneath the vast sky, surrounded by the town that had shaped her and the man who had changed her life, Maya knew she had found her happily ever after, not in spite of their differences, but because of them. The months that followed Ethan's proposal were a whirlwind of planning, adjusting, and dreaming. For Maya, it was both exhilarating and overwhelming. She had spent her entire life in the small coastal town, rooted in its traditions and rhythms. The idea of sharing her world with someone like Ethan, someone who came from such a vastly different background, was daunting, yet thrilling. And for Ethan, leaving behind the fast-paced life he had always known to start anew in a place so far removed from his comfort zone required courage he hadn't fully realized he possessed. Their wedding took place on the beach where they had shared their first meal together, beneath a canopy of twinkling fairy lights strung between palm trees. The ceremony was simple but deeply meaningful, attended by close friends, family, and members of the community, who had come to love and respect Ethan as one of their own. Maya wore a traditional silk sari adorned with intricate embroidery, while Ethan donned a crisp white suit paired with a scarf gifted to him by Nani. As they exchanged vows under the starlit sky, there wasn't a dry eye in sight, not even among the fishermen who had initially been skeptical of the American millionaire marrying into their tight-knit community. After the celebrations ended, life settled into a new rhythm for the newlyweds. Ethan moved into Maya's modest home overlooking the ocean, trading his penthouse apartment in San Francisco for a cozy space filled with handmade furniture and vibrant textiles. At first, adapting to the slower pace of life was challenging for him. He missed the convenience of city living, the reliable internet, the endless dining options, the hustle and bustle of urban energy. But Maya helped him find joy in the little things: the sound of rain tapping against the roof, the aroma of freshly brewed chai wafting through the house, and the sight of children playing barefoot on the beach. In return, Ethan brought elements of his former life into theirs in ways that enriched their days. He introduced Maya to technology that made communication easier, setting up solar panels to ensure consistent electricity during power outages. Together, they launched programs at the library aimed at teaching digital literacy to older generations and providing coding workshops for teenagers. Slowly but surely, Ethan became an integral part of the community, not as an outsider, but as someone who genuinely cared about its future. One of the most transformative aspects of their partnership was how they balanced each other's strengths. Maya's deep connection to her culture and people inspired Ethan to slow down and appreciate the beauty and simplicity. Meanwhile, Ethan's innovative mindset pushed Maya to dream bigger and embrace change without losing sight of what mattered most. They complemented each other perfectly, creating a harmonious blend of tradition and progress. As time went on, the library flourished beyond anyone's expectations. It became more than just a building. It was a sanctuary for learning, creativity, and connection. Local artists held exhibitions in its courtyard, students gathered for study groups, and elders shared oral histories that might otherwise have been forgotten. Visitors from neighboring towns began arriving, eager to experience the magic of a place built on collaboration and love. Even Priya, now fully recovered, returned to help manage the growing number of tourists drawn not only by the library but also by stories of the couple, whose union had transformed the town. But perhaps the greatest testament to their journey was the way they inspired others. Young couples in the community looked up to them as proof that love could bridge even the widest gaps. Entrepreneurs sought Ethan's advice on sustainable business practices, while educators turned to Maya for guidance on fostering inclusivity and cultural pride. Together, they proved that success wasn't measured by wealth or fame, but by the positive impact one could have on the world. On their first anniversary, Maya and Ethan stood hand in hand on the hilltop where Ethan had once confessed his feelings under the stars. Below them stretched the town they had grown to call home, a patchwork of colorful houses, winding streets, and shimmering waters. The library stood proudly in the distance, its lights glowing warmly against the evening sky. "I never imagined my life would turn out like this," Maya said softly, leaning her head on Ethan's shoulder. "You've given me so much. A partner, a purpose, a brighter future for our town. And you've given me something I didn't know I was missing," Ethan replied, kissing the top of her head. "A sense of belonging, a reason to wake up every day excited about what lies ahead." They stayed there for a long time, watching as the horizon shifted from gold to pink to deep purple. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of their shared dreams, they knew they had found something rare and precious, a love that transcended boundaries and changed lives, including their own. Though challenges lay ahead, as they do for any couple navigating the complexities of life, they faced them together, hand in hand. Their story was no longer just about two individuals finding each other. It was about two worlds merging to create something extraordinary. And as the waves crashed against the shore below, echoing the rhythm of their hearts, Maya and Ethan knew they had built not only a home, but a legacy, one rooted in love, resilience, and hope.